3 days before Thanksgiving, my mother's text lit up my phone. "Don't bother coming. You're not welcome here anymore." I stared at the message, sitting in my private office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Below, guests lounged by infinity pools and strolled along pristine beaches, enjoying the exclusive Paradise Cove Resort. My resort, though my family didn't know that. The irony would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. Another text followed. "We'll be arriving at Paradise Cove tomorrow as usual. At least we still have our special place even if you've ruined everything else." Their special place. The luxury resort where the Morrison family had spent every Thanksgiving and Christmas for the past 20 years. The place where they'd made me feel like an outsider since I was 16. I picked up my desk phone. "Sarah, please pull up the Morrison family's permanent booking records." "Already done, Ms. Morrison," my assistant replied. "Your parents and siblings are scheduled to arrive tomorrow for their annual 2-week Thanksgiving stay. The usual beachfront villas, all amenities included." I closed my eyes, remembering last Thanksgiving. The moment everything changed. "Did you really think we'd support this?" my father had demanded, waving my proposal in the air. "Using family money to help homeless shelters and rehabilitation centers? The Morrison Foundation supports proper charities, opera houses, art museums, places that reflect our standing in society." "People are suffering, Dad," I'd argued. "We have the resources to make real change." "You're just like your Aunt Margaret," my mother had sniffed. "Always trying to help the wrong sort of people." Aunt Margaret. My father's sister, who'd been ostracized from the family for similar reasons 20 years ago. The same aunt who'd secretly helped me buy Paradise Cove Resort when it went up for sale last year. "The foundation's money isn't for common people," my sister Victoria had declared. "Really, Olivia, sometimes I wonder if you were switched at birth." My brother Peter had smirked. "Let her waste her own money on lost causes. Oh wait, she doesn't have any." They had no idea that while they were mocking my bleeding heart ideas, I was quietly building my own empire. Paradise Cove was just the latest acquisition in a portfolio that included hotels, resorts, and charitable foundations across 3 continents. The family's special place was actually mine. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Victoria. The family gathered in their mansion, planning their Paradise Cove trip. "Too bad you'll be spending Thanksgiving alone. Maybe you can volunteer at one of your precious homeless shelters." I smiled, thinking of the changes I'd implemented at Paradise Cove over the past year. The sustainable practices that had cut costs while protecting the environment. The employee education program that had improved service and satisfaction. The discreet homeless rehabilitation program running in the resort's quieter seasons. All changes my family had failed to notice during their visits, too absorbed in their own privilege. "Sarah," I called, "please connect me to Manager Stevens." "Right away, Ms. Morrison." James Stevens, Paradise Cove's manager, answered immediately. "Ms. Morrison, what can I do for you?" "The Morrison family reservation for tomorrow." "Ah yes, your family's annual visit. Though they don't know you're the owner, of course. Everything is prepared to their usual specifications." I thought about my mother's text. About 20 years of being made to feel less than. About last Thanksgiving's final rejection. "Cancel it." Silence on the line. The entire reservation. Every villa. Every amenity. Everything. "But Ms. Morrison, they've been coming here for 20 years. They're one of our oldest." "I own Paradise Cove, James. And I'm telling you to cancel their reservation." More silence then. "Yes, ma'am. Should I inform them personally?" "No," I smiled. "I'll handle that myself." I hung up and pulled up my mother's text thread. For a moment my finger hovered over the keyboard. Was I really going to do this? Another text from Victoria popped up. "Just packed my designer swimsuits. Can't wait for another perfect Paradise Cove Thanksgiving. You know, where successful people belong." Decision made. I typed, "Actually, Paradise Cove just called. Your reservation has been cancelled." 3 dots appeared immediately. "What? That's impossible. We have a permanent booking." "Not anymore." My phone started ringing. I let it go to voicemail. "Victoria, Dad's calling the manager right now. This is ridiculous." I waited, knowing exactly what would happen next. Within minutes, my father's name appeared on my screen, followed by a text. The manager says the cancellation came from the owner. This is outrageous. We're one of their most loyal customers. I took a deep breath and typed, yes, the owner did cancel your reservation. In fact, she's canceling your permanent booking status entirely. Mom, she? Since when does a woman own Paradise Cove? My hands were steady as I typed the words that would change everything. Since last year. When I bought it. Silence. Then my phone exploded with notifications. Dad, what are you talking about? Victoria, stop lying. Peter, this isn't funny, Olivia. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the Paradise Cove ownership documents. Snapped a photo. Sent it. More silence. Then from my mother, this is impossible. You don't have that kind of money. You work for some small nonprofit. I laughed out loud. They still thought I worked at a local charity, never bothering to learn that I'd built a successful hospitality group focused on sustainable luxury and social impact. Check the documents, Mom. Paradise Cove is mine. Your special place belongs to the daughter you just uninvited from Thanksgiving. My office phone buzzed. Ms. Morrison, your father is on the main line demanding to speak to the owner. I smiled. Put him through, Sarah. It's time for a family reunion. Sometimes karma arrives in the form of cancelled reservations. Olivia. My father's voice was strangled. What have you done? Nothing yet, I replied calmly. But I think it's time we had a conversation about family, privilege, and consequences. Would you like to have it over the phone, or would you prefer to meet in person? I have a lovely office overlooking the ocean. You know, at the resort you thought you owned a piece of. The silence that followed was 20 years in the making. An hour later, I watched my family file into my office like chastened schoolchildren. Gone was their usual arrogance, replaced by a mixture of shock, anger, and, most surprisingly, fear. Please sit, I gestured to the plush chairs facing my desk. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind me, Paradise Cove stretched out in all its glory. How? My father demanded, ignoring the chair. How did you afford this place? I leaned back, enjoying the role reversal. You never bothered to check what I was really doing, did you? Too busy mocking my bleeding heart ideas to notice I was building something. Building what? Victoria snapped, but her voice trembled slightly. Morrison Hospitality Group, I replied calmly. 15 luxury resorts across 3 continents. All sustainable, all profitable, all combining luxury with social impact. My mother sank into a chair, her perfectly maintained facade cracking. 15 resorts? But you work at a homeless shelter. No, Mom. I partner with homeless shelters, rehabilitation centers, and education programs through my resorts. Paradise Cove alone has helped 300 people get back on their feet through our discreet employment program. This is ridiculous, Peter cut in. You're making this up. Show us proof. I pressed a button on my desk phone. Sarah, please bring in the portfolio summary. My assistant entered with a thick folder, distributing copies to my stunned family members. They flipped through pages of financial statements, property deeds, and impact reports. $6 billion in assets, my father whispered, his face pale. Profit margins 40% above industry standard. Turns out social responsibility is good for business, I said. Who knew? Victoria threw her copy on my desk. Fine. You're rich. Congratulations. But this petty revenge, canceling our reservation. Petty. I stood up slowly. Like uninviting me from Thanksgiving? Like 20 years of mockery and exclusion? Like rejecting every idea I had because it didn't fit your narrow view of what matters. We're family, my mother pleaded. Family. I laughed. Was it family when you cut off Aunt Margaret for the same reasons? When you mocked her dedication to helping others? They flinched at Margaret's name. My father's sister, the other family outcast who'd seen potential where they saw weakness. Speaking of Aunt Margaret, I continued, pressing another button on my phone, would you like to say hello? The large screen on my wall flickered to life, revealing my aunt's smiling face. Hello, brother dear. Quite a surprise, isn't it? My father staggered back. Margaret? You're part of this. I helped Olivia buy Paradise Cove, she said proudly. I recognized in her what you all missed: vision, compassion, and brilliant business sense. You helped her take our special place away, my mother accused. Your special place? Aunt Margaret's laugh was cold. The place where you made her feel unwelcome for 20 years? Where you flaunted your privilege while she was building something meaningful. We can sue, Peter threatened weakly. We have permanent booking rights. Check your contracts, I suggested. They expired last month. I didn't renew them. Silence fell over the office. Outside, waves crashed against pristine beaches. Paradise continued, indifferent to the drama unfolding in my office. What do you want? My father finally asked. Want? I stood and walked to the window. I want you to understand what you've missed. Not just about me but about what success really means. I turned back to face them. Paradise Cove isn't just a luxury resort. We've created programs that have helped hundreds of people rebuild their lives. We've implemented sustainable practices that have become industry standards. We're proving that profit and purpose can coexist. And we're supposed to just accept this? Victoria demanded. Accept that you're right and we're wrong? No, I replied. You're supposed to learn from it. To understand that your way isn't the only way. That success can mean more than just money and status. I pressed another button and photos appeared on the screen. People graduating from our training programs. Families moving into homes they'd saved for while working at our resorts. Children attending the schools we'd built in resort communities. This is success, I said quietly. This is what you couldn't see. My father sat heavily in a chair, looking suddenly old. I was wrong, he whispered. The words hung in the air, 20 years in the making. We all were, my mother added, tears smearing her perfect makeup. Victoria and Peter remained silent, but their usual arrogance had crumbled. So what happens now? Peter finally asked. I sat back behind my desk. That depends on you. Paradise Cove is still hosting Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. Not just for guests, but for our employees and their families. For the people in our programs. For anyone who needs a place to belong. I met each of their eyes. You're welcome to join us. Not as privileged guests but as people willing to learn, to understand, to change. You'd still have us? My mother asked. After everything? This was never about revenge, I explained. It's about transformation. About showing you what's possible when you open your hearts to something bigger than yourselves. Aunt Margaret smiled from the screen. Your daughter built something extraordinary, James. Something that would make your parents proud, not because of the profit but because of the purpose. My father stood slowly. We need time to process all this. Take it, I said. But remember, Thanksgiving dinner is at 6 tomorrow. If you come ready to see Paradise Cove through new eyes. They filed out quietly, shoulders slumped, worlds shaken. As the door closed behind them, Aunt Margaret spoke. You did it, sweetheart. You changed everything. I smiled at my aunt's image. We did it. Thank you for believing in me when they couldn't. They'll come tomorrow, she predicted. Their pride is wounded, but their eyes are finally opening. He was right. The next evening my family arrived at Paradise Cove, not in their usual luxury cars, but in modest rentals. They joined our Thanksgiving celebration, sitting among employees, program participants and other guests. They listened to stories of lives changed. They saw the impact of the programs they'd once mocked. They began to understand. Victoria now runs our education initiatives. Peter manages community outreach. Even my parents have embraced the new Paradise Cove, proudly telling friends about their daughter's vision. Last week, a journalist asked me why I didn't just ban my family completely. Why give them a chance to change? I showed her a photo from last Thanksgiving. My family serving meals, talking with guests, finally part of something bigger than themselves. Sometimes, I told her, the best revenge isn't about punishment. It's about transformation. Paradise Cove continues to thrive, not just as a luxury resort, but as a place where privilege meets purpose. Where family means more than blood or status. Where success is measured in lives changed, not just profits earned. And every Thanksgiving we celebrate together. Not as the old Morrison family bound by pride and prejudice, but as something new. Something better. Sometimes it takes losing paradise to find something more precious. Understanding. My name is Sophia Chen and I never planned on becoming a millionaire. I just wanted my parents to be proud of me. Growing up in our modest suburban home, I watched them pour everything into their small travel agency, dreaming of breaking into luxury tourism. But no matter how hard I worked or what I achieved, it was never enough for them. A 98% on your math test? Why not 100%? My mother would say, barely glancing at the paper. Emily Wong got perfect scores and she's learning violin. That pattern continued through high school and into college. When I got accepted to Stanford Business School, my father's only response was, "At least it's not your safety school." When I graduated with honors, they skipped the ceremony because a potential client had requested a meeting. I understood their dedication to their business. Golden Path Travel had been their dream for 20 years. They'd started with nothing, building it from a tiny office in Chinatown into a respectable agency. But they wanted more. They desperately wanted to break into luxury travel, to book private jets and exclusive resorts for wealthy clients. That dream consumed them, leaving little room for anything else, especially their underachieving daughter. After graduation, I made what they considered my biggest disappointment. Instead of joining their agency, I took an entry-level position at a private aviation startup. A secretary? My mother had practically shrieked when I told them. "We didn't send you to Stanford to be a secretary." "It's not a secretary position, Mom," I tried to explain. "I'm a business development associate dash." "Same thing," my father cut in. "You're just answering phones and getting coffee for real business people." What they didn't know, what I couldn't tell them, was that I had a plan. The startup Sky Elite Aviation was revolutionary. They were developing an app that would make private jet booking as easy as ordering an Uber. I saw the potential immediately and so did my bosses. Within 6 months, I was leading client acquisitions. By year 2, I was the youngest director in company history. I worked 18-hour days, learned everything I could about private aviation, and built relationships with Silicon Valley's elite. But I told my parents nothing. Every time they asked about work, I gave vague answers about still being at that little aviation company. Why? Because I wanted to succeed on my own terms. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it without their connections or their approval. Then came the day that changed everything. I was in my office, no longer a cubicle but a corner suite with a view of the San Francisco Bay, when my assistant buzzed me. "Miss Chen, your parents' agency is trying to schedule a meeting. They have a potential client who wants to discuss private jet services." My heart stopped. Golden Path Travel was reaching out to Sky Elite? After 3 years of dismissing my job as just answering phones, they were now potential partners? "They specifically requested our CO," my assistant continued. "Should I tell them Mr. Davidson is out of town?" I sat back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. Mr. Davidson wasn't just out of town, he had retired 2 months ago. The board had appointed his successor immediately. Me? "No," I said, my finger hovering over the intercom. "Schedule them for tomorrow morning. But don't tell them who they're meeting with." "Are you sure?" my assistant asked, knowing my complicated history with my parents. "Absolutely," I replied. "And Sarah? Make sure the champagne in the executive lounge is properly chilled. I have a feeling we're going to need it." That night I barely slept, imagining tomorrow's meeting. Would they be proud when they discovered my success? Would they finally see me as more than a disappointment? Or would they just try to take credit for my achievements, claiming their tough love had driven me to succeed? As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of my Marina District apartment, I realized something. It didn't matter anymore. I wasn't that desperate to please daughter anymore. I was Sophia Chen, CEO of Sky Elite Aviation, and tomorrow, I would finally show my parents exactly who their disappointment had become. Little did I know, tomorrow would bring more drama than even I could have anticipated. The next morning, I arrived at Sky Elite's headquarters early, taking extra care with my appearance. My dark blue power suit was perfectly tailored, my makeup subtle but flawless. I wanted to look every inch the CEO I had become. At 9:55 a.m., my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Your 10 o'clock is here. Your parents are accompanied by Mr. James Winston." I froze. James Winston? The billionaire tech investor my parents had been trying to land as a client for years? This meeting was bigger than I'd thought. "Send them to the executive lounge," I instructed. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." Through the glass walls of my office, I watched as Sarah led them into our newly renovated executive lounge. The space screamed luxury floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, handcrafted furniture, and a bar stocked with top-shelf spirits. My parents looked almost comically out of place, my mother in her modest dress and my father in his slightly outdated suit. But Mr. Winston, he belonged. Tall, distinguished, wearing a casual outfit that probably cost more than my parents' monthly rent, he carried himself with the easy confidence of the truly wealthy. I took a deep breath and stepped out of my office. "I'm so sorry," I heard my mother saying as I approached. "The CEO is running a few minutes late. I'm sure they're very busy. Actually," I said, stepping into the room, "I'm right on time." The look on their faces was priceless. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, hitting the hardwood floor with a crash. My father's jaw literally dropped. Mr. Winston just looked intrigued. "Sophia," my mother whispered, "what are you doing here? Where is the CEO?" "You're looking at her," I said calmly, extending my hand to Mr. Winston. "Sophia Chin, CEO of Sky Elite Aviation. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Winston." He shook my hand firmly, a smile playing at his lips. "The pleasure is mine. Though I'm getting the impression there's quite a story here." "Impossible," my father sputtered. You can't be the CEO?" I finished for him, moving behind the bar to pour fresh champagne. "I was appointed 2 months ago, after leading Sky Elite's expansion into Asia and tripling our client base in under a year." Mr. Winston's eyebrows shot up. "That was you. I read about that expansion in Forbes. Brilliant strategy, using local influencers to normalize private aviation among young tech entrepreneurs." My mother's face had gone from shocked to calculating. I could practically see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure out how to spin this to their advantage. "Oh yes," she jumped in, her voice syrupy sweet. "We always knew Sophia would do well. That's why we encouraged her to take that entry-level position. We saw the potential in this company. Mom," I cut her off firmly. "Don't." The room fell silent. Mr. Winston glanced between us, clearly fascinated by the family drama unfolding before him. "For 3 years," I continued, my voice steady, "you've called my job a disappointment. You've told relatives I was just a secretary. You've dismissed every accomplishment, every promotion, every success I've had here." "We were just trying to motivate you," my father protested weakly. "No," I said, setting down my champagne glass. "You were trying to control me. You wanted me to join your agency to live out your dreams instead of my own. And now that you see what I've built without you, you want to pretend you supported me all along." Mr. Winston cleared his throat. "Perhaps I should give your family some privacy. "No need," I said, straightening my jacket. "This is a business meeting after all. You came to discuss private aviation services, yes? Let me show you what Sky Elite can offer." I pulled out my tablet and opened our presentation, but my parents weren't done yet. What happened next would change our family dynamic forever. As I began walking Mr. Winston through our services, my mother made one last desperate attempt to regain control. "Sophia," she interrupted, her voice sharp. "This is our client. We brought him here. You can't just Actually, Mrs. Chen," Mr. Winston cut in smoothly, "I believe your daughter is exactly who I need to speak with." He turned to me. "I've been following Sky Elite's innovations for months. Your app-based booking system is revolutionary. But I had no idea the CEO was so young." "Young but experienced," I replied, maintaining eye contact. "I've personally overseen over 10,000 private flights and developed our client portfolio from scratch." My father, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "If you're really the CEO, then why didn't you tell us? Why let us believe you were just a low-level employee?" I turned to face him, feeling strangely calm. "Would you have believed me? Or would you have accused me of lying like you did when I made honor roll? When I got into Stanford? When I Enough," my mother snapped. "You're embarrassing us in front of Mr. Winston." "No, Mrs. Chen," Mr. Winston interjected. "Your daughter isn't embarrassing anyone. In fact, she's rather impressive." He turned to me. "I came here today because I was interested in booking private jets for my tech conferences. But now I'm thinking of something bigger. Sky Elite could be the perfect partner for my entire corporate fleet." My parents' expressions shifted from embarrassment to shock as Mr. Winston continued. "How does an exclusive contract sound? All my company's private aviation needs handled by Sky Elite. We're talking about 200+ flights annually minimum." I maintained my professional composure, but inside my heart was racing. This would be our biggest contract yet. We would be honored, Mr. Winston. Shall we discuss the details in my office? As we stood to leave, my mother made one final play. We should all discuss this together as a family dash. Mom, I said firmly, this isn't a family discussion. This is business. And in this building, I'm not your disappointing daughter. I'm the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Mr. Winston followed me to my office, leaving my parents standing in the lounge, their reflections visible in the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking smaller somehow, diminished. 2 hours later, after signing the biggest contract in Sky Elite's history, I returned to find them still there. My father was sitting with his head in his hands, my mother staring out at the bay. Sophia, my father said quietly, we were wrong. Yes, you were. Can you forgive us? My mother asked, turning to face me. I walked to the bar and poured 3 glasses of champagne. I don't know, I said honestly. But maybe we can start over. Not as the disappointed parents and the failure daughter, but as equals. I handed them each a glass. To new beginnings? They took the glasses, and for the first time in years I saw something new in their eyes. Not disappointment, not calculation, but respect. To new beginnings, they echoed. As we stood there sipping champagne and looking out over the bay, I realized something important. Success wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. I had built this life on my own terms, and no one, not even my parents, could take that away from me. That evening, as I sat in my office signing the final paperwork for Mr. Winston's contract, my assistant brought in a delivery, a huge bouquet of flowers from my parents. The card read simply, "We're proud of you." I smiled, placed the card on my desk, and got back to work. After all, I had a company to run.
The crystal glasses clinked as my sister Emma raised her 4th toast of the evening. To my incredible husband Blake, she gushed, who just closed another multi-million-dollar deal. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, nursing my single glass of wine. These monthly family dinners had become an exercise in humility or humiliation, depending on how you looked at it. The dining room of my sister's mansion could have fit my entire apartment 3 times over, a fact she never failed to mention. James, Blake's voice carried across the table, dripping with false concern. Still working at that tiny investment firm? What do you call it again? Mitchell Advisory. Before I could answer, Emma jumped in. Oh, Blake, don't embarrass him. Not everyone can be as successful as you. I gripped my fork tighter, thinking about the documents sitting on my desk at work. Documents that would wipe the smug smile right off Blake's face. But not yet. Timing was everything in this game. Actually, I said calmly, we're doing quite well. Blake laughed, adjusting his Rolex. Quite well? Is that why you're still driving that 10-year-old Honda? Come on, James. When I was your age, I was already making partner at Sterling Capital. My mother, ever eager to keep peace, tried to change the subject. The food is lovely, Emma. Did your new chef prepare this? But Blake wasn't finished. He never was. You know, James, I could probably find you something entry-level at Sterling. Better than wasting your time with whatever it is you're doing now. I thought about the irony of his offer. Blake Thompson, the self-proclaimed king of Wall Street, had no idea that his entire future was currently sitting in my office safe. I appreciate the offer, I replied, cutting into my steak, but I'm exactly where I need to be. Emma rolled her eyes. James, don't be proud. Blake's trying to help you. God knows you need it. Our father, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. Now, Emma, your brother works hard. At what? Blake interrupted. Pushing papers at some no-name firm? Please, he's barely making ends meet while Emma has everything she could ever want. I made sure of that. I watched my sister beam at her husband, completely oblivious to the condescension in his voice. She'd always been like that, so eager for approval that she'd accept any form of attention, even if it came at someone else's expense. Tell me, Blake, I said, setting down my fork. How's the global tech merger coming along? His hand froze halfway to his wine glass. How do you know about that? I shrugged. News travels fast in finance. Heard there might be some complications. Nothing I can't handle, he snapped, but I caught the flicker of concern in his eyes. Sterling Capital has everything under control. Emma, oblivious to the sudden tension, laughed. Of course you do, honey. You're the best at what you do. Unlike some people who never reach their potential. The dig was meant to hurt, but I just smiled. If only they knew that Mitchell Advisory, my supposedly tiny firm, had been systematically acquiring controlling interests in key companies for the past 5 years. We operated through a complex network of shell corporations and subsidiaries, our true size hidden from public view. Blake had recovered his composure. Actually, James, since you brought it up, the global tech merger will be my biggest deal yet. Once it's complete, we're looking at a $900 million valuation. But that's probably more money than you'll see in your lifetime. My mother shifted uncomfortably. Blake, perhaps we could discuss something else. No, no, he waved her off. James should hear this. Maybe it'll motivate him to finally do something with his life. You know, when I first met Emma, I couldn't believe she had a brother who was such a... What's the word I'm looking for? Disappointment, Emma supplied helpfully. That's it. Blake snapped his fingers. A disappointment. I mean, same parents, same opportunities, but look at the difference. Emma married well, lives in luxury, while you... He gestured at my simple suit. Well, you're still a nobody. The table fell silent. My father started to protest, but I held up my hand. You're right, Blake. The difference is remarkable. I stood up, placing my napkin beside my plate. Thank you for dinner, Emma. I should head out, early meeting tomorrow. Running away. Blake smirked. Can't handle the truth. I paused at the door. Actually, I have some papers to review. Something about a merger. His face tightened slightly, but he played it off with a laugh. Right. I'm sure your little advisory firm handles real mergers all the time. If he only knew that Mitchell Advisory was just the tip of the iceberg. Below the surface lay Mitchell Global Holdings, one of the largest private equity firms in the country. We specialized in strategic acquisitions and corporate restructuring, operating entirely in the shadows. Walking to my car, yes, the 10-year-old Honda that Blake loved to mock, I thought about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, the one where Blake would discover exactly who held the power to approve or deny his precious merger. My phone buzzed. A message from my senior partner, everything in place for tomorrow. Thompson won't know what hit him. I typed back a quick response. Perfect. Time to show my brother-in-law what a nobody can do. Driving home, I reflected on how it had come to this. After graduating from Harvard Business School, something Blake didn't know about, I'd let them all believe I went to state college. I could have taken the conventional route. High-profile firm, flashy office, expensive car. But I saw an opportunity to build something different. Mitchell Advisory was my cover, a small, seemingly insignificant firm that no one would look twice at. Meanwhile, Mitchell Global Holdings worked behind the scenes, acquiring companies, restructuring corporations, and building an empire that would make Sterling Capital look like a corner store. Tomorrow, Blake Thompson would learn the hard way that appearances can be deceiving. His precious merger, the deal he'd been bragging about for months, hung by a thread that I controlled. I pulled into my apartment complex, nice but not flashy, exactly how I wanted it. My phone buzzed again. Emma, this time, you left so early. Blake was just trying to help. Why can't you accept that you're not as successful as him? I didn't respond. Tomorrow would be response enough. Inside my apartment, I opened my safe and pulled up the global tech merger documents. Blake's signature was there, along with various board members and stakeholders. But one signature was still needed. The CEO of Mitchell Global Holdings, the company that had quietly become Global Tech's majority shareholder. My signature. I poured myself a scotch and settled into my chair, reviewing the papers one last time. In less than 12 hours, Blake Thompson would discover that his biggest deal, his crowning achievement, rested entirely in the hands of the nobody he loved to mock. Sometimes success doesn't need to be flashy. Sometimes it's better to be underestimated, to work in the shadows while others preen in a spotlight. Blake had chosen to build his reputation on arrogance and public displays of wealth. I had chosen a different path. Tomorrow we'd see which path led to real power. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling Capital's headquarters an hour early. Not through the main entrance where Blake would expect to see me begging for a job, but through the executive elevator, using the access code my team had secured months ago. The top-floor conference room offered a stunning view of the city skyline. I stood at the window, watching the morning traffic crawl below, thinking about how many times Blake had bragged about this view at family dinners. "Everything is ready, Mr. Mitchell," my assistant Sarah whispered, entering silently. "The board members are gathering in the lobby. Mr. Thompson just arrived." I nodded, straightening my bespoke suit, one that cost more than Blake's but was deliberately understated. "And Emma just pulled up in her Mercedes. She's with him." Perfect. I had wondered if Blake would bring my sister to witness his triumph. His ego wouldn't let him miss the chance to show off. I took my seat at the head of the conference table, back turned to the door, listening as people filed in. I could hear Blake's confident voice in the hallway. "The Mitchell Global Holdings CEO is just playing hard to get. Trust me, once they see the numbers, they'll sign. No one turns down Blake Thompson." Oh, the irony. The room fell silent as Blake entered. I could picture him strutting in, probably adjusting his gold cufflinks, a habit he had when he was feeling particularly powerful. "All right, where's this mysterious CEO who's been?" His voice trailed off as I swiveled my chair around. "James, what are you doing here?" "This is a private meeting. Security." I smiled, opening the folder in front of me. "No need for security, Blake. I'm exactly where I should be." Emma, who had followed him in, looked confused. "James, why are you sitting there?" "That's for the CEO of Mitchell Global." Her voice faded as realization dawned. "No," Blake said flatly. "No, this is impossible. You run Mitchell Advisory, that tiny firm in a strip mall." "Mitchell Advisory is a subsidiary," I explained calmly. "One of many. Mitchell Global Holdings, on the other hand." I gestured to the board members who were trying to hide their smirks. "Well, let's just say we're quite a bit bigger than Sterling Capital." Blake's face had gone from red to white. "You're lying. This is some kind of joke. Like the jokes you made about my car, or my career, or how about last night when you called me a nobody?" I slid the merger documents across the table. "Take a look, Blake. The only signature missing is mine." Emma grabbed the papers before Blake could reach them. Her hands trembled as she read. "James, you're the CEO. But all these years, I was building something while your husband was busy bragging about his latest bonus." I turned to Blake. "By the way, that merger you're so proud of, we orchestrated the whole thing. Every major stakeholder, every board member who supported the deal, they work for me." Blake collapsed into a chair. "Why?" he managed to croak. "Because true power isn't about showing off. It's about knowing when to stay quiet and when to reveal your hand." I stood up, buttoning my jacket. "Now about that merger. I've reviewed the terms, and I'm afraid they don't work for us." "Please," Blake's voice cracked. "This deal, it's everything. Sterling Capital needs this." Like I needed your help getting an entry-level position, I asked softly. "Tell me, Blake, how does it feel to be the nobody in the room?" Emma stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "James, please. If this deal falls through, Blake could lose everything." "Everything?" I laughed. "You mean the mansion you love to show off? The cars? The vacations? All built on Blake's arrogance and other people's money?" The board members shifted uncomfortably. They knew what was coming. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "Sterling Capital will be absorbed into Mitchell Global Holdings. Blake, you're welcome to stay on, in an entry-level position, of course. After all, I'm just trying to help you, like you always tried to help me." Blake's face crumpled. The mighty king of Wall Street reduced to begging for a job from his brother-in-law. "You can't do this," he whispered. "Actually, I can. And I am." I turned to the board members. Meeting adjourned. Sarah will distribute the new organizational charts. Blake, clean out your office by the end of the day. As people filed out, Emma remained, staring at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "All those dinners," she said quietly. "All those times we made fun of you. You chose your side, Emma. You chose to believe that success only looks like what Blake showed you. Flashy cars and expensive watches. You never once asked what I was building." "I'm your sister," she pleaded. "And I'm still your brother. The same brother you called a disappointment last night. The only difference is now you know what I'm really worth." My phone buzzed. Another major deal requiring my attention. Real power never rests. "I have another meeting," I told them. "Blake, security will supervise while you pack up. Emma, I'll see you at the next family dinner. I think it's my turn to host." As I walked out, I heard Emma burst into tears and Blake's heavy breathing as he faced his new reality. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy, but I pushed it aside. They had chosen their path, the path of arrogance and shallow success. I had chosen mine. That evening, I drove my cheap Honda back to my modest apartment. My phone had been buzzing all day. Messages from my parents, other relatives, all suddenly realizing that the family disappointment was anything but. I poured myself a scotch and opened my laptop to review another potential acquisition. My mother had sent a dozen messages. Why didn't you tell us? We had no idea. Please talk to Emma, she's devastated. I left them unread. Success isn't about proving yourself to others. It's about knowing your worth, even when no one else does. A final message came through from Blake's personal email. I understand now. I deserve this. But please, give me a chance to prove myself. I smiled, thinking of all the chances I'd never gotten, all the times he lorded his success over me. Then I typed a simple response. Report to HR on Monday, 9 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. Nobodies can afford to miss their first day of work. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about showing them exactly who you've been all along, and watching their world reshape itself around that truth. Blake would learn what real success looks like. Emma would learn that true worth isn't measured in mansions and sports cars. And I would continue building my empire, one quiet deal at a time. After all, that's what nobodies do best. The security camera blinked at me mockingly as I stood on my own front porch, still wearing my scrubs after a grueling 12-hour shift in the ER. My feet ached, my back was killing me, and all I wanted was to collapse into my own bed. Instead, I was staring at Patricia's smug face through the doorbell camera, trying to process what she just told me. I mean it, Emma, she continued, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against something off-screen. David's finally seen sense. This house belongs to our family, and you were never good enough for it or for him. My name is Emma Chin, and at 32, I was living through every daughter-in-law's worst nightmare. But unlike most women in my position, I'd seen this coming from a mile away. Patricia Williams had been trying to sabotage my marriage to her precious son David since the day we met 5 years ago. It started small, snide comments about my Chinese heritage at family dinners, constant criticism of my career choices, a doctor. But when will you have time for children? And not so subtle attempts to set David up with her friends' daughters. But over the past year, things had escalated. She'd gone from passive-aggressive to just plain aggressive, and tonight was clearly her grand finale. I shifted my weight, adjusting my grip on my work bag as I maintained eye contact with the camera. Where's David? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I'd like to hear this from him. Patricia's laugh crackled through the speaker. He's not here. He's staying at our house while he processes everything. But he left this for you. She held up a piece of paper, what looked like a hastily scrawled note. Would you like me to read it? No need, I replied, already pulling out my phone. I'll just call him myself. Oh, he's changed his number too. Fresh start, and all that. Her voice dripped with satisfaction. There are some boxes on the porch with your things. Take them and leave, Emma. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. I glanced at the 3 cardboard boxes stacked neatly beside the door. They hadn't been there when I left for work this morning. I could see some of my clothes spilling out of the top one, hastily shoved in without care. My throat tightened, but not from sadness, from anger. Patricia, I said calmly, I'm going to give you one chance to open this door and explain what's really going on. Because right now, you're committing several crimes, and I don't think you want me to start listing them. She scoffed. Crimes? This is my son's house. He has every right to. This is my house. I cut her off, my voice sharp. My name is on the deed. I paid for it with my own money. And what you're doing right now is illegal entry, theft, and harassment, just for starters. There was a pause, and I could almost see the wheels turning in her head. David told me this was his house, she said finally, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice now. I smiled, remembering the day I'd bought this place. David had been hesitant about putting only my name on the deed, but I'd insisted. For tax purposes, I told him. But really, it was because I'd seen the way Patricia manipulated him, the way she used money and guilt to control every aspect of his life. I wasn't about to let her have any claim on my home. Would you like me to have my lawyer explain it to you? I asked, already pulling up Jennifer's number on my phone. She'd be happy to walk you through exactly how much trouble you're in right now. You're bluffing, Patricia snapped, but I could hear the fear creeping into her voice. David would never let you. I'm not bluffing, I interrupted again. And I'm done talking through a camera. You have exactly 30 minutes to open this door and get out of my house before I call the police. Your choice, Patricia. I turned and walked back to my car, settling into the driver's seat. My hands were shaking slightly as I pulled out my phone, but my mind was clear. I'd been preparing for something like this ever since last Christmas, when I'd overheard Patricia telling David that he needed to man up and take control of his life. I'd started documenting everything after that. Every threatening text, every manipulative phone call, every surprise visit where she tried to catch me doing something wrong. I called Jennifer, my lawyer and closest friend since college. She picked up on the second ring. Let me guess, she said. The monster-in-law finally showed her true colors. She changed my locks and claims David's leaving me, I replied, watching the house. She's barricaded herself inside with some story about him staying with them while he processes everything. Jennifer's sharp intake of breath was followed by the sound of typing. Have you talked to David? Can't reach him. According to Patricia, he's changed his number. I paused, a thought occurring to me. She's done something to him, Jen. This isn't like him. Want me to send the police? I considered it for a moment. Not yet. Give me 30 minutes to try something first, but stay on standby. Always. And Emma? Be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. I hung up and started scrolling through my contacts until I found the one I was looking for. Mark Williams, David's younger brother, picked up almost immediately. Emma? Thank God. I've been trying to reach David all day. My heart sank. You can't get hold of him either. No, and Mom's been acting weird. She told me he was working late, but when I called the office, they said he never came in today. Mark's voice was tight with worry. What's going on? I filled him in quickly, watching as lights flicked on and off inside my house. Patricia was clearly agitated, probably trying to figure out her next move. Holy shit, Mark breathed when I finished. I knew Mom was losing it, but this is next level. Want me to come over? Please, and Mark, bring your key to your parents' house. I have a feeling that's where we'll find David. Mark met me outside my house 20 minutes later, his face grim as he took in the boxes on the porch. Patricia still hadn't emerged. Though the security camera had gone dark, she probably figured out how to disable it. I called Dad, Mark said quietly, joining me by my car. He's staying out of it, his exact words. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so similar to David's that my heart ached. I'm so sorry, Emma. I knew Mom was unstable. But it's not your fault, I said, checking my phone again. Still no word from David. Ready to head to your parents' house? He nodded, twirling his key ring around his finger. You really think she's got him there? Where else would she hide him? We took separate cars, just in case we needed to transport David. The drive to the Williams mansion felt longer than usual, each minute stretching with possibilities. Was David okay? Had Patricia finally pushed him too far? And most importantly, what had she done to make him go along with this? The house was dark when we arrived, but Patricia's Mercedes was in the driveway alongside David's Audi. My hands clenched around the steering wheel at the sight of his car. He was here. Mark used his key to let us in, and we moved quietly through the silent house. Everything was immaculate, perfectly arranged, Patricia's obsession with control evident in every carefully placed ornament and straightened picture frame. Check the guest rooms, I whispered to Mark. I'll take the study. He nodded and headed upstairs while I made my way to Robert Williams' study. David had always felt safe there, even as a child. It was the one place Patricia rarely ventured. The door was locked, but I could see light seeping out from underneath. My heart pounding, I knocked softly. Dad? David's voice, groggy and confused, came through the door. Is that you? David, it's Emma. Can you open the door? There was a shuffling sound, then footsteps. The door cracked open, and there he was, my husband, looking disheveled and dazed. His eyes were unfocused, and he swayed slightly as he stared at me. Emma. He blinked slowly. What? "What are you doing here?" Mom said. I pushed the door open wider and caught him as he stumbled. "David, what did she give you?" Just, just something to help me sleep," he mumbled, leaning heavily against me. Said I was too stressed, needed to rest. Fury rose in my chest as I helped him to the leather couch. Patricia had drugged him, probably with sleeping pills, maybe something stronger. No wonder he'd been so compliant with her plans. "Mark," I called out, keeping my voice low but urgent. "In here." Mark appeared in the doorway, his face darkening as he took in his brother's condition. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "Is he drugged?" I confirmed, checking David's pupils. They were pinpoints. "Call an ambulance. Now." The next few hours passed in a blur. The paramedics arrived, followed by the police. David was taken to the hospital, not mine, thank God, but a good one across town. Patricia was nowhere to be found, but a quick check of her credit cards showed she'd booked a flight to her sister's place in Florida. Jennifer arrived at the hospital just as they were finishing David's toxicology screen. The results confirmed what I'd suspected, a dangerous combination of sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medication, enough to keep him confused and compliant, but not enough to raise immediate alarm. "We can add attempted murder to the charges," Jennifer said grimly, reviewing the report, "along with breaking and entering, theft, false imprisonment." "I don't care about charges right now," I interrupted, watching David sleek through the observation window. "I just want him safe." Mark had gone to secure the house and change the locks. Again, the police had documented everything, including Patricia's hasty evidence removal attempts. She tried to delete the security camera footage, but had already backed it up to the cloud. Every smug word, every threat, preserved for the court to see. David woke up properly around midnight, the drugs finally clearing his system. I was sitting beside his bed when his eyes opened, clear and alert for the first time in what must have been days. "Emma?" He reached for my hand, his voice hoarse. "What happened?" "The last thing I remember. Your mother," I said softly, squeezing his fingers. "She's been drugging you, David. For days, maybe longer. She tried to make it look like you'd left me." His face crumpled as the memories started coming back. "The tea," he whispered. "She kept bringing me tea, saying it would help with my stress. And then, everything got fuzzy. I remember her talking about the house, about you, but it was like I was underwater. I couldn't think straight." I held him as he broke down, his body shaking with sobs of rage and betrayal. This strong, kind man who had always tried to see the best in everyone, even his mother, finally facing the truth about who she really was. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying. "I should have seen it. All these years I should have protected you from her." "Hey," I cupped his face in my hands, making him look at me. "You have nothing to be sorry for. She's sick, David. This isn't your fault." The police caught up with Patricia 3 days later at her sister's house in Tampa. She'd been planning to flee to the Cayman Islands, where the Williams family had accounts dating back generations. Instead, she was arrested and extradited back to face charges. The evidence was overwhelming, not just from that day, but years of documented harassment, threats, and manipulation. The toxicology reports from David's system, the security camera footage, the illegal entry into our home, the carefully planned attempt to separate us and take control of David's life. Robert Williams finally broke his silence when the full extent of his wife's actions came to light. He filed for divorce and provided even more evidence, years of hidden cameras in their home showing Patricia's escalating behavior, secret recordings of her planning to remove Emma from the picture one way or another. David insisted on pressing charges despite his father's attempts to handle things privately. He testified against his mother at the trial, his voice steady as he described how she'd systematically poisoned him, taking advantage of his trust to drug him into compliance. Patricia was sentenced to 15 years for her crimes. She looked smaller somehow as they led her away, her perfectly maintained facade cracking to reveal the desperate, controlling woman beneath. She couldn't even look at David as she passed him. The aftermath wasn't easy. David needed therapy to process the betrayal, to understand how his mother's manipulation had shaped his entire life. I stood by him through all of it, watching him grow stronger as he untangled himself from the web of control she'd woven around him. We sold the house, too many bad memories, and bought a small farm outside the city. somewhere peaceful where we could build a new life together. Mark and his wife became regular visitors, along with Robert, who was slowly learning how to be a father without Patricia's influence. One evening, about a year after everything happened, David and I were sitting on our new porch, watching the sunset. He turned to me, his eyes clear and present in a way they hadn't been for so long under his mother's influence. "You did, didn't you?" he asked softly. "That's why you kept the house in your name. Why you documented everything. You saw what she was capable of long before any of us did." I nodded, taking his hand. I hoped I was wrong, but I needed to be ready, just in case. He brought my fingers to his lips, kissing them gently. "Thank you," he whispered, "for being strong enough to fight for us when I couldn't." We sat there in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from orange to purple. Sometimes the worst moments in life lead us exactly where we need to be. Patricia had tried to destroy us, but in the end, she'd only made us stronger. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities that had nothing to do with control or manipulation. Just love, trust, and the quiet understanding that we would always protect each other. The occasional letter still arrives from the prison. Patricia's attempts to explain, to justify, to manipulate even from behind bars. We don't read them anymore. Instead, they go straight into a file Jennifer keeps, just in case. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you can never be too prepared. But mostly, we focus on building our new life, on healing, on a family we're creating, one built on love and respect, not control and fear. Patricia tried to tear us apart, but she only succeeded in showing us what we're capable of surviving together. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and David is sleeping peacefully beside me, I think about that moment on the porch, staring at Patricia's smug face through the security camera. She thought she had won, thought she'd have finally gotten rid of me. She never understood that real love isn't about control. It's about standing together, even when everything is falling apart. That's the lesson we carry forward. That's the story we'll tell our children someday. Not about the darkness we faced, but about the light we found on the other side. Because in the end, love wins. Not the controlling, suffocating love Patricia thought she was showing, but the kind that sets you free, that makes you stronger, that helps you become who you were always meant to be. And that's something worth fighting for.